Okay, hi everyone, welcome to the third week, right? And before we start on what we have today, does anybody have any question, probably based on what they've done over the week? Or they have a general questions with regards to Azure and DevOps? Hello, can anyone hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear
Yes,
you.
I can hear you. Good evening.
All right, good. So I said, do we have any questions with regards to what we did last week, or general questions with regards to Azure DevOps before we dive into what we have for today? Okay, so I would take it as we don't have any question and we understood everything that we spoke about, right? Probably in just 5 minutes, let's recap on what we did last week. We talked about one of the examples of infrastructure as a service, right? We talked about one of the examples of infrastructure as a service, which is the virtual machine, right? And the virtual machine is like a remote server, right? So let me give you an example. I have this particular system that I'm using to make this call, right? When I'm going out, I don't take it out. I have another system that I take out. Probably my Mac. I'll take my Mac out. But this system, you make use of it every day, right? When I mean every day is there are a lot of things that I need inside this particular system that I'm making calls that I'm currently sharing the screen, right? So one of the things that I do is I make sure that this system does not go to sleep, right? Make sure that I set the power to never, right? The power, the power option. Let me show you what I'm trying to say. So I'm just trying to give a context to what virtual machine is and how it works. You see now, you see when plugged in, right? You see that the screen is what don't turn off, never make my device sleep, never, right? So this one on battery turn off is in 10 minutes and the other ones also is in 10 minutes. This is because I've not been going out recently, right? That's why. But if I know that probably this week is going to be busy for me, I have to be going out a lot. This is also going to be in never, right? You would ask me that, oh, are we in Nigeria and how do you sustain the power? You know, you have to look for a way. You have to look for a way. Right? I have a backup power that usually I use to power this system, right? So what I'm trying to say in essence is when I'm out, I can remote into this system from anywhere, right? So that's one of the concept, or that's just how VM works, right? It's a remote machine. Even if I travel out today and my Mac is with me, I know the IP of my system anyways. I can remote into it. I know the password of my system, right? I can remote into it at any time, right? And I can also use a remote machine, a remote application like AnyDex or TeamViewer. I can also use that too, right? So that's just the concept of um, virtual machine. And I also showed you how to provision a virtual machine, how to set the compute instance. So let me ask you a question. Uh, I won't be surprised if somebody gets it, right? Is it, I don't know if I've spoken about horizontal scaling and vertical scaling, right? So is it possible to, okay, thank God we have. I think I spoke about it last week, right? So now I spoke to we deployed a virtual machine, and also we also deployed an app service. And without an app service plan, you can't deploy an app service, right? So because let me show you. I think yeah, this is the bootcamp app service that we deployed last week. And you see this is an app service plan. Yeah, this is the app service plan. DevOps hyphen ASP app service plan, right? So without it, it's just like you setting up IIS in a server, and you deploy and you host as many applications as you want in the IIS. So that's the same um, idea how the app service works, right? I can deploy multiple application inside this app service plan. You remember that was why I told you then that you're not built based on the number of app service that you have. You are built based on the size of your app service plan, right? And I told you about some of the functions that we can do, the configuration, the settings, and the stuff like that. Right now, my question now is, um, which one can you scale out, right, between virtual machine and app service? Which one has the capability to scale up between virtual machine and and no, I don't want you to say it. I want you to type it on the so that because if somebody says this, you might want to, oh, I think that's true, right? So can somebody just can you guys just drop it on the chat, right? Your answer, I mean, which one is it, a virtual machine or it is you what's it called, or app service, right? Which one can you scale out? Can you guys hear me? I'm only seeing one person typing. Okay, who's the next person? Can you guys hear me though?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Please, can you repeat the question?
Which one can you scale out? Has the capability to scale out, right? Is it a VM or an app service?
I think it's a VM.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Any other person? I still have Baby. Okay, he has responded. Mary. Okay, Prince said VM. If you don't want to chat, you can also unmute your mic, right? And all right, so I'll just answer you. Most of you are wrong, right? You can't scale out a VM, right? You can't scale out. It's not possible. What you can do it is scale up, right? You cannot scale up. I mean, you cannot scale out a VM, right? So the only instances where you can scale out a VM is when you have a virtual machine skill set. So you're just expanding, and that skill set is going to come with a minimum of, let's say, two or three, right? So you're just expanding. That was why I said I never said virtual machine skill set, right? I said a VM, but a VM, one VM, you cannot scale out, right? If anybody is telling you, oh, yeah, we are using a VM in our company and we need to scale out, we need to scale out the VM. That means they want to provision another VM, and they will now put it behind the load balancer, right? So the load balancer will not be doing the traffic, this one VM, two VM, like a round robin, or which is an active or a passive active. When I mean a passive active, I mean it's going to be sending to VM1, 1, 1. When you notice that VM1 is not responding very well or VM1 is down, it switched to VM2. That's an active passive, right? So, or an a active, which is one send there, send there, send there, send there, send there, send there. Most companies do that, right? Most companies, they don't just use one server, they use multiple, and they put a load balancer at the front. It is the load balancer you're sending requests to. Now the load balancer does the routing based on what has been configured, either round robin or active kind of methodology. However, it is an app service you can scale out. I even showed you, look at it here. That was why I had to take it away at some point, right? So you can scale out rather. You can scale out an app service, but you cannot scale out a VM. Do you guys understand?
Yep. Thank you.
All right, good. All right, makes sense. Okay. So today we'll be talking about networking, right? Networking is very vast. So, but then I'll just take you through the basics in what's it called, for this boot camp. I'll take you the basics. Then, if there's still time after the boot camp, we can just do like a crash course on a particular topic. A 1 hour or 2 hours is going to be long. Let's say 2 hours. For a crash course on a particular topic. One of the ones that I've promised you guys is Kubernetes, right? We'll talk about it extensively. I think it's part of the curriculum that I was supposed to talk to you about. But if I'm not able to take some things within that scope, I'll have to do it like a crash course for anyone. But that would require us setting a time, and like probably one Saturday. It might be immediately after the boot camp, then we do it, or probably maybe after you've completed the project that I'm going to give you guys, then we'll just do a crash course, and that will be all, right? So one of the ones that I've mentioned is the Kubernetes, the container and the Kubernetes um, um, topics that we're going to talk about. All right, thank you very much. All right, so today we'll be talking about networking, right? And cloud networking is very easy. I think I spoke to you about it already, right? Remember when we were creating virtual networks, right? So one of the things we'll talk about is virtual networks, the subnets, the NSG. I know at some point, I think the first week we touched on it, or the second week, excuse me, we've spoken about it, and we are also going to work on it today, right? So, um, do I have to create a virtual network? We've done that already, right? So I don't know. I can just make use of the one we already have we created. Remember the one we created and we were adding subnets, and there's now an option for Azure to dictate your subnet for you, except if your company gives you specific. I'm working on a project now. AE is also aware. So we're working on a project where the networking team gave us the IPs that we were supposed to use, right? And also working on a project, right? And we have used the available IPs that the company has signed, right, within East US, right? So one of the things that we're not doing, we're extending it to probably the China zone to use one of the IPs in that area. So it's really based on what the company has. But for this bootcamp, we are using the predefined one that Azure is giving us. There's no difference. It's just based on company's preference, right? So this is the one we created. So now, so I'm going to do two things, right? I'm going to open two pages. Please, I'm going to open two pages. Right, let's use this. Now, let's start with, this is the virtual network, the usual, this is the address space of this virtual network. Always take note of this. Most times you don't need this, you only need the subnet, right? Most times. And there are some times you might want to do like a peering to one environment, on-prem environment, Azure to Azure or Azure to AWS. You would need it, right? So, like I said, this is the address space. You've seen the address space here. That means I have I have a usable IP of 65,500, yeah, 536, right? So these are the things that you need to take note of. And I'm just going to touch on those important things. Right? Second one is the subnet. Now, I've showed you how to create a subnet. I've showed you how to map depending on the size that you want. I can also create a subnet again, right? We'll name it as, let's say, gateway. Yeah, let's put gateway. Oh, sorry, I'm using a different keyboard. Yeah, gateway. So you see, it's going to give me an available IP of 256, right? In most cases, I don't need up to that. I can just take a /25, right, which is going to give me 128, right? And I'm going to click on add. It's going to add that. Remember, one of the reasons why I'm using more of UI is because I want you to understand. You need to understand the UI even before you start working on Azure CLI. Once you're more comfortable with UI, when an Azure CLI is giving you an error, you know where the issue is coming from. So like what I always tell people, don't come to an environment and say, I want to automate everything. No, 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 no. First do everything manually. So when there's a bottleneck somewhere during your automation, right, you know where it is failing from. All right, please go ahead, Binga. Binga, your hands was raised up. All right, probably that was a mistake. All right, so you see, we have 123 IPs, right? Now, another thing I need to talk about is when you click on one of these, any of the subnets, right? You see all these options. This is the IP, this is the size, right? Are they telling me that I can change the size? This was not possible before, right? But it seems we can now change the size after creation. This was not possible before, right? So it seems we cannot change the size. Yes, we have an option for NAT gateway, right? Maybe probably you have an IP, right? All your resources are internal, right? And you need to NAT an IP to it, so that you will be able to, those resources will be able to reach to the internet, right? So let me give you an example. We have a virtual machine that you try to do google.com from within the virtual machine, and it's not going. It's because you've not allowed outbound, like I said, from inside the machine to the internet. It's an outbound, right? From the internet inside is inbound, right? So all these terminologies matters a lot. So you can add NAT gateway to it to allow outbound internet access, like you say. You see, thank you. I think they've written it here. Do you get? Right? And we also have network security group where you manage what comes in and what goes out. Where that's where you manage the inbound and outbound. I've showed you before, and I'm still going to show you today again. Right? So I'm going to enable an NSG here. The NSG that we have. We don't have any route table. Route table is where you're saying, oh, from this subnet, go to here before you go to outside. Or let's say from this subnet, go to the firewall first, right, before you go to the internet. So the firewall is able to screen what's going out before going to the internet. So route table is just telling you, from here, go here, or I want to go out, right? and there's a lot of blocks on the road. I'm not permitted to go over the block, so I need to pass where there's space. Maybe you need to go to the right. Yeah, go to the right first, go front, go to the left. So that's just what I'm just explaining it in the layman form, right? Please note, so that we understand what I'm trying to say. So route table is you defining where you need to go first before you go to your final destination. Do you understand? Now, service delegation means that what are those things that this subnet needs to have access to by default, right? So you can just, and this doesn't really, sometimes it matters, right? For the subnet for web app, this guy matters, right? Where is it? I think I service delegation. I'll show you. I would check it in the other example. All right, so all this one delegation and the stuff like that. So you might not need all these things right now. Right. So that was why I said basics, so that it doesn't, if you understand the basic, every other thing comes naturally or when you get used to them. Now, so bastion, I also explained bastion to you, right? It gives you access to internal server. So instead of you logging to the VM from your using RDP from your command line, you'll be able to deploy Bastion. If I have deployed it to just, you can just click on Bastion. It will open another tab here. You'll be able to see your, what's it called? Your virtual machine from the browser, control it from the browser, everything, right? Instead of using RDP. So that's what Bastion is for. Oh, sorry. For DDoS protection, this is cost inclusive. You just need to enable that, then Azure do their thing. Our firewall, we don't have any firewall. I'm not talking about any firewall also for now, because it involves a lot of things too. So like I said, the basic first. Understand the basics, then we'll go. The last one I'm talking about now is the peering, right? So let's say this VNet, right? All the resources are internal, right? And I also have another VNet, which is the personal VNet, right? So this bootcamp, all the resources are internal, right? And my personal VNet, all the resources are internal. By default, they are not, they won't, even though they are in this Azure, they are in the same tenants, they won't be able to talk to each other. You understand? They would not, you won't be able to make calls to any IP within this subnet, within this subnet, right? Even though they are almost the same thing. No, it won't work. You understand? So how do you want it to work? How would you be able to allow it to work? So one thing you do is do a subnet, you do a peering. You understand? You click on add peering. Now say, let's say bootcamp to persona. That's the name, right? So you can now say probably we are in the same subscription now, so it is much easier. You can just do select the subscription, then select persona. That, yeah, personal unit does this. You understand? You now see it's saying address space overlap. You understand? That means I'm using one address space in bootcamp that is already used here. So there will be an overlap. So that means I can't use it. So let me use this guy. So the reason why there's an overlap is because I did not consider all these things. That's why I said companies will always give you an IP that, oh, this is what we want to, because they've considered all the scenarios that you want to have. You understand? Now let me see if there's an overlap. You see, there's an overlap here. Funny enough, so we might not be able to do integration, right? This guy, so it's already there. So this guy. So it says, and I cannot be paid if you tend to pay this, change the address space, blah blah blah. So that means we might not be able to pair with those VNets. So another thing you can do, we're not create it. So let me just show you another example is say, um, not even classic. Say I know the resource, my resource ID, right? So how do you get resource? Every resources in Azure has resource ID, right? So then you come here, you go to properties, every resources has Azure ID. You can just go to properties and you see your resource ID. This is it, right? Copy it. Oh, sorry. So that's it. So you see that it gave me the same error because I'm still referencing the same. So when you use I know my resource ID is when you are in a total probably let's do this. Has anybody created Azure? Created Azure account? Cam, I think you've created Azure account, right? Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ola.
Sorry, we can
I
hear you,
think
sir.
Yeah.
yes,
Has anybody created an Azure account?
you mentioned that we should hold
Yes.
on that.
Yeah, but I
I don't.
think somebody has created.
Okay.
For me, I've created a new one.
You've created a new one. Oh, okay. And you've not created any VNets.
I think I just did some few things the other day, but just trying to like keep it in one because I don't want to keep doing
Okay.
what you're doing and the money does not.
Okay.
The money runs out.
Oh,
So
okay,
I'm
fair
just
enough.
yeah.
Oh, okay. If you had created, I would just say let me link to your own VNets so that you understand the concept of from one environment to another. Do you understand? So you can
Yes.
just do I know my resource ID, collect the resource ID from that environment, then you link it, right? You are
Okay.
this option, allow this subnet to access this, you tick it, allow this to receive traffic from this, you tick it. Excuse me. Then you come here too. This will be what's the name for here? Bootcamp to personal, and this one will be personal to bootcamp because it's going to create both pairing from here and here, right? So and you want to give them a name. So you want to allow bootcamp to access personal, yes. Then bootcamp to access to receive forwarded traffic from personal. Excuse me. And that's all you need. Then click on that and you're good. You'll be able to receive and forward traffic from both environments. Right? Do you understand? Are we clear? Hello, can you hear me? Are we clear?
Yes.
All right, good.
Yes.
All right. So the next one is the next one that I want to talk about, right? Is network security group. Right. So like I said, keep it basics. Then along the line you understand the other important ones. Oh sorry, I'm not supposed to be here. Oh, you can just do NSG here. Network security groups. And this is the one we created for Bootcamp. Now this is the usual NSG. You come here, the inbound security rule, the outbound security rule, right? So this subnet here will show all the subnet that you attach this NSG rule. You see that everything here, the subnet here is empty, right? So let me come to bootcamp subnet. Let's add it to keep sub energy and save. Then come, sorry, gateway, yes, subnet and save. So you see it has saved. So, and you see that all of two of them has NSG here. So you can come in and go back and come back. Subnet. You see that it is already associated here, right? So what are we doing here? Now you remember when I like RDP, right? So you see this error, this one here, it means that you are not supposed to allow it from anywhere, right? You're not supposed to allow it from anywhere. You can only allow. It's not advisable because it's like a security. It's as security concern, and it's affecting the company security posture, right? So, so what you need to do now is instead of source anywhere, you can put an IP, IP address where you collect IP from the people that needs to access any resources in that subnet, right? You can do that. Then you add IP. Probably you gave me an IP 192.55.2000. You add a comma, right? Oh, I'm using a different keyboard. All right, you add 92.168.2. Yes, you add another IP 102. No, dot 89 dot 7 dot 223. That's an MTN IP. So you get what I'm trying to say. This is a comma, not dot. All right. So you can add more. I have consulted for a company, right? And they have more than I think 100 IPs added here, right? But those IP are their VPN IPs today. So any VPN from different region, as far as it's their company's VPN, right, can connect to any resources inside that subnet, right? So you can add as many as you want. So if you add IP, you'll notice that this warning would leave, right? So you understand. So when I mean that's for IP, right? And for IP address, right? My IP address. So it's going to pick. Did you see that it picks my IP directly? I think, why am I using MTN? I'm using MTN. So you look at this IP, it picks it directly. So let me do what's my IP? What is my IP? Did you see? It picks my IP directly. So did you see? So you can do that, or you can do service tag, right? Service tag might be tricky, right? Especially if your attacker is using Azure also, right? Service tag, you're saying, is it from the internet? No, we don't do that, right? We don't do that here, right? Or you can say from a virtual network. Then from virtual network, that means any virtual network can be able to, virtual network in Azure can be able to reach it. Or let's say Azure DevOps. Let me give you an example. Now, when a resource is private, even your Azure DevOps pipeline, right, would not be able to access that environment. So you can just say Azure DevOps, right? If you add this rule to any Azure DevOps pipeline, if it's my company's Azure DevOps pipeline, she is company Azure DevOps pipeline, as far as it has authentication to access the Azure, it will be able to deploy into this environment. As far as there is an authentication, maybe a service principal has been added, it will be able to deploy into the environment. So you can also say maybe only app service. All the app service in your environment should be able to reach it, right? So it depends. That's just what service tag is, right? And we also have application security group, right? We don't have any right now. That's why it's blank, right? So let's leave it as my IP. Okay. So here you say destination. If it's from the internet or it's from a particular IP, in most cases you can decide to define your port, right? Because this guy here, no, let me even use a different one. Let's use a different one. Let's say Azure DevOps now, service stack, right? I don't want from the internet. Let's say Azure DevOps. Right? I pick Azure DevOps. I'm saying source. The source is Azure DevOps. Port, definitely any port, but you either use 80 or 443. Destination any. So we are not doing anything. So destination, this destination any, is the same thing as the source, right? So we can say Azure DevOps should reach out to probably the IP of your VNets, IP of your VM rather. If you have the IP, right, you add the private IP, please. So let's go here. Yeah. So I will assume that all these VMs, they are in BootCamp VNets, right? So you can use that. So come here, look for you see this private IP. Yeah, that's what you don't use the public IP. No, it won't work. Use the private IP, copy it, and say, I want it to be able to reach this guy. By default, it will not go any other place. Do you understand? It will not go to any other, it will not have access to any other resource except that VNet. That's how powerful network security group is. Do you understand? So can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So that's how powerful network security group is, right? And the next one is, let's say, a service tag. We now say, oh, only from Azure DevOps, only access. Probably you're only deploying to what's the code? App service. You can say app service. So Azure DevOps, that means only your Azure DevOps is deploying to app service. Then this is the best rule. You don't want it to go any other place apart from where you have decided to go. Do you understand? So you don't want it to go to any other place. And the destination port, right? You're either saying, 80, oh, sorry, 80 or comma and 443. 80 means HTTP and 443 means HTTPS. No, they don't need to be under the same tenant. As far as you have the resource ID. Remember that I said that. Once you have the resource ID, it will connect. Do you understand? All right, so what kind of protocol? So we might not be able, we can only determine maybe it's a TCP, right? Definitely because it's coming from this guy, it's going to be a TCP. I don't ever hardly use the UDP, but most time you can know, right? So let's just do any protocol. So you can either allow it or deny it, right? Then you give it a name, DevOps inbound. Is this inbound? Yeah, this is inbound. Azure DevOps inbound, right? Then you describe it. This rule is to allow Azure Dev pipeline to deploy to app services. That's all. Then you click on add. You good. Right. That means you're good, right? So now, and this is the rule, right? So the same method you do for outbound. You know that you see deny all outbound has been cancelled, has been denied, right? So that means we have, and so look at this, allow internet outbound. That means from anywhere, any of your resources that this NSG is attached to can go to the internet. Except you now add it that I don't want it to go to the internet. So you cannot add the rule. Or you cannot add the rule, yeah? Right, because you can't delete predefined rule. Do you understand? Allow VNet outbound. That means every resources in that VNet to go to the outbound. Allow VNet outbound. That means from any source, any virtual machine to destination virtual machine, where it can also go. You understand? Since this guy is here, this also definitely needs to be there. Do you understand? So that's just I need, or if you check it, it's the same way too. Source and destination are the same way, right? You just know that this one is not coming in. That means it's going out. So you should know how to create that. So that's that about energy. Um, let me see if the last is the last topic, I guess. Let me if we're still able to cover that. Okay, now we've talked about energy. We're supposed to talk about load balancer and application gateway. Right. Application gateway is not something I can explain in just 15 or 10 minutes, right? So it's great to be part of what a crash course we'll be working on Kubernetes. Application gateway / load balancer. I think those are the two topics. Those are the two topics that I have in mind. All right. So now the next one now is now DNS, right? Just give me a minute. So DNS. Now, so one thing about DNS is you should be able to map it, right? So now let me give you an example. When you send a request, let's say google.com, or let me say, am I using a different? So when you send this request now, you're not sending this domain. You're not sending this domain to the server. It's not this domain that the server is going to interpret. There's going to be a translation, right? Where the IP attached to this domain will be the one that has access to that server, and the server is going to give a response out to this, right? So it does not make sense maybe to always cram the IP of what's it called, of every domain. So that's why there's a reason for DNS, right? So now, so how does DNS works, right? There's, like I said, there's always a public IP where the DNS is attached to. That's how there's a name translation, right? So now app service domain. App service domain. So this is the domain, right? You know that this domain is different from what you're seeing here.
You are muted. Ola, you're muted.
What about now? When
Yeah,
did you
you're
notice that I muted?
not quite long. You can continue.
Okay. All right. So you notice that this is the domain. No, don't do that. All right. So this is the domain, right? So one of the things you need to be able to do is manage the domain, right? So a lot of people, a lot of administrators, right, they manage the domain. Oh, we've deployed an application. Oh, we need to map a domain to it. So how do you map it? You need the A record, of course, right? Cam, just give me a minute, please. So you need the A record for you to be mapping it. A record means the IP, the what's it called? The where you deploy the application to, right? So now this is what you need to go to. So this is where I deployed my application. Uh and yeah, custom domain. So you see the IP. This is the IP. 52165.155.12, right? So now, and what domain do I want to add? I can't be using just my last name as a domain. So I want to use my first name dot my last name, then so that it will be able to access this, right? So what I do is come here and do go to manage DNS record, right? Not even manage DNS record. Let me go there. Record set. No, I can just come here and of course, let's manage the DNS record. Oh, sorry. DNS. DNS zone, rather. So you need to go to DNS zone. Then you click on the name. Then you come here. This is what I was looking for. Record set, right? So you see, this is it. So, and I said, so what I did was the domain is pointing to what? To the IP, and which is this, right? You see that this is an A record. An A record will always point to an IP, right? What is the type of the record? A. TTL, time to life. TTL, time to life. Right? It's always 1 hour in most cases. Just leave it at 1 hour, or anything you mate it there. Just put it there. Then you map it to the IPs, right? So this is how it looks like. This is how it looks like. You understand? So because I'm mapping a subdomain, remember, I'm mapping a subdomain. You can either map it to an IP or you can either map it to a CNAME, right? What do I mean by a CNAME? A CNAME means the predefined record or name for where you're deploying to. Sometimes where you're deploying to will give you the CNAME of the application, right? So if you come here, what's the CNAME here? Oh, the CNAME for my record is this, the name that I use to deploy it. Look at it, right? Ola, right? .azurewebsite.net. So you see that that's what is posted here, right? So there are some cases where this guy, falolu.com is already mapped to an IP, right? And this Olaitan, this one will now, this record will now make it olaitan.falolu.com. Needs to be mapped to an IP too. There's no harm. You can also do that, right? But usually a subdomain, right, is always mapped to a CNAME. One thing is CNAME cannot change. If CNAME change, that means you want to destroy, you want to delete this application. However, IP can change. If there's an issue in this region, which region is this? Where is it? Central US. If there's an issue in this central and Microsoft does something, there's very high possibility that the IP will change. So what will save you at that point is the CNAME, because this guy cannot change except they delete the application. So that's just the difference. So one thing is, probably we deployed an application yesterday, that last week, right? We deployed an application. Where is it? Bootcamp 22, right? So now let's do this. Let's go to custom domain. You understand? Let's add a domain here, right? So you can just click on domain. It's an app service domain, of course, right? And are we using managed certificates? Yes. So which domain? This is the domain. I'm using a subdomain, right? So let me say bootcamp .falolu.com. Do you understand? So what this does is going to do some manual thing that you are supposed to do, right? But let me show you what it's going to do, right? So what it does is it picks this guy, this where is it? Bootcamp, right? He picks it and comes here and say, I want to add a new subdomain. Let me add it here. Then it does it. It's going to be bootcamp.falolu.com. Am I doing an A record? I don't know. Subdomain. Then it's going to say, what's the alias? Then you come here. How can I get that alias again? Okay, this is it. Then push it here. Then it adds, right? That's just how you create a DNS record. Do you understand? Even in on-prem, even in other environment, GoDaddy, that's just the same way, right? So I'm not going to add this because I want to show you that that guy will do that automatically for you, right? Just click cancel. Let's come here and do add. So it's going to add the domain and it's going to add the certificate. The reason why it's going to add the certificate is Azure gives us like 6 months of what's it called? Of free certificate, right? That's the certificate that it's doing now. Free 6 months. After 6 months, I think you can renew it or you can add another one. I don't know, right? But it's always good to bring your own. So all these, yeah, it has expired. I need to do another thing. You still know that it's secured, right? Then let's come here. Remember, I did not add that DNS record the other time. So let's refresh. Let's go look for see. Look at it. You see it. There's it. So that it adds it by itself. Look at it. So that's just how it is, right? So there are sometimes it will tell you, oh, you need to add this, 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 right? So you come here and you start adding those things that it tells you to add, right? Or let's say if it's from GoDaddy, GoDaddy will tell you, oh, you're not only adding the CNAME, also add a TXT record, right? It will tell you that. Then you come here, add it, then come here, type, change it to TXT, yes. Then you add the values, also add the name that you want to add here. So it gives you like an idea of, oh, these are the things you need to add. And that's how DNS record works everywhere, anywhere. GoDaddy, Hostinga, Microsoft, everywhere, even Azure. That's how it works. Adding of a record, TXT record, CNAME, and all that, right? So if you come here and say, let's come to overview. Come here. This is the custom domain, BootCamp. I don't know why it's not always open. Anyway, let me see. Okay,
Really nervous.
Sorry, I just want to ask a question.
good. Did you see that it has loaded, right? And it's even secured. Okay, so that's just how it is. Yeah, please go ahead. I'm done with the lecture. But then, before you go ahead, let Cam ask this question. Is the first person that raised up his hand.
Okay, so my question was, I just wanted to know that if I think I understand my question. My question was, I wanted to ask you if one can actually get a domain from Azure, but from
Yeah,
what
of
you're
course.
doing, you can. Yes, you can. So that was my question. Thank you.
Yes.
So
Benga.
my question is, I heard you made mention of Hostinga and GoDaddy. Yeah. If I have a domain in Hostinga or in GoDaddy, is it possible to move it to Azure?
Yes, it's possible to move it as well, but then if you want to move it, because okay, let me show you something, right? I'll show you to me. To move it to Azure, that means you want to the advanced preview. Let me see. There was a time, right? I bought this thing a long time ago. right? There was a time where any domain you buy in Azure, you manage it GoDaddy. You get you manage it in GoDaddy. So if you click on advanced setting, it takes you like to a GoDaddy dashboard at some point in time. But I think they are not managing it themselves here. So what I'm saying in essence, you can, right? There are like a lot of documentation on how to move from one environment to the other, from one this to this. But I don't see the movement. I don't know. I don't necessarily support movement except you want to integrate your email to that domain. But anything apart from integrating your email to that domain, right? Then I just leave it where it is. Then just configure your DNS. Do you get? So another way you can
Okay,
also
so
move it, if you go to manage DNS, right? So you see this name server, right? This name server, you now go to, you copy everything. You now update the name server in GoDaddy, update it here, right? So there, but then you can now manage that record here. Do you
I
get
have
it?
to take a look at that personally.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions, please? But so that means everybody understand the concept of network security group. The concept of having the subnet peering between two environments, that means two virtual networks together, right? And also DNS, right? Are we on the same page, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we
All
are.
right, good. All right, so that's just the end of the class today, right? But if you have any question, then you can just stay behind to ask me or anything, or you can just drop it on the chat, so I'll be able to take it out.